Nothing brings me more joy than to bring you specialists on things that I don't do in my own business. I talk about a lot of things on the show. I talk about marketing. I talk about digital marketing. I talk about Facebook ads, Google ads, SEO, social media, etc., etc. But I never, ever, ever talk about relationship building. And there's no other better person to discuss that than my guest today, who is going to teach us why that our funnel is not broken. It's our relationship. So with that, enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to Marketing Solutions for Local Businesses, the podcast where you will discover all the latest and greatest digital marketing tools, tips, and strategies you will need to implement in order to stay ahead of your competition. If you are not getting the results you are looking for from your digital marketing efforts, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's the host of our show, the local business guy himself, Frank Deming.
Hello, everyone. This is Frank Deming, the local business guy, and welcome to another episode of Marketing Solutions for Local Businesses. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day, everyone. I hope you guys are having a rocking week thus far. Today, I have the privilege, as I said in the pre-intro, to introduce you to a person who I have deep respect for. Full disclosure, I just met her, but man, the stuff that she puts out is excellent. And today we're going to get into talking about funnels and how it isn't broken. And it's all about your relationship that's broken. And there's no other person better to talk about that than the great Breanna Gunn. Breanna, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, I always like to interview people who are sharp and people who are doing great things out there in this industry. And you are certainly one of them. So that's why I wanted to extend.
Careful, my ego might overinflate.
Hey, man, it should. It's well deserved. So I've already said a few things about you in the pre-intro, Breanna, but in your own words, who are you and what do you do?
So I am a marketing and messaging specialist. I've been a copywriter for 11 years and have been in marketing for over 20. When I'm not dealing with marketing mishaps and fixing people's funnels, I play roller derby and I knit.
Roller derby and knitting, huh?
Yep. You got to have like one impactful, literally fun thing to do, and then one that keeps you warm.
Those are like two things in the opposite side of the spectrum. We got to have a side conversation on that, maybe after the show. But anyway, let's dive in here into the content. I think we have a very interesting topic here that the people here will definitely, may or may not relate to. And if they're not relating to it, my hopes is that at the end of this episode, they will relate to. And as I said, no one better qualified to talk about it than you. So let's kick this off. I'm going to start you off easy, and then we'll probably get into some harder questions. How's that? So
I'm totally down.
I'm all into funnels. I'm a huge funnel person. I've been doing digital marketing since 2007. I used to build funnels. I've managed that whole thing. And I agree with you that the relationship sometimes can be broken. So why is building relationships so important?
Well, you wouldn't walk up to someone in the park or the grocery store and be like, "Hey, I just met you. Let's get married." Mm-hmm. That's True. Weird. They'd be like, 911, hi. Yeah, this crazy person is bugging me. Like that would never fly in the real world. So in the online space, we make this assumption that relationship building is a different thing altogether. And it's the same freaking thing. It's not different. You have to establish yourself and introduce yourself. You need to start the conversation with, "Hi there, I'm Breanna. It's really nice to meet you. I'm a marketer. What do you do?"
Right.
Yeah.
I get it. Now, people I think, at least I hope, people normally can do that when they're out there networking. But how about online though? How do you, it's, I guess it's very tempting to go out and just say, "Hey, I've got this great product. I got the cure to cancer."
Right.
I want to sell it to you like today rather than get to know you.
The hard part is if the market that you're going after doesn't know who you are and already trust you, that's a really hard sell, because now you sound like you're selling snake oil. Right?
Well, I am. Snake oil is good for cancer. You didn't know that?
Oh my gosh. Really? I'm done. Sold. But it's one of those things where you have to establish your authority, but you have to do it in a way that benefits the consumer. Right. In the online space, you don't have the benefit of saying, let's go grab a coffee and I'll tell you about myself. Let's sit on the bench of the park and shoot the breeze. We don't get to do that. So we have to create those instances of teaching and education inside the content and context of what we're putting out to the world. So I always follow something that I call the 80-20 rule. 80% education information, helpful tips, who you are as a company, what you do, why you do it, who you serve, and then 20% selling.
Love it. Because totally agree.
You and I both know that no one's going to buy on the first date, at least no one that you really want to work with.
That's true.
You have to do a little bit of legwork. Now, maybe they buy on the discovery call, but up to that point, they've had certain touch points with you. They've seen your posts on social media. They've read your emails. They've filled out a form. They've taken some kind of action, and it's been reciprocated by your continued conversation, right? You post more posts, you send more emails, you respond to their direct message. You're building a relationship, right? It's like playing a game of Jenga.
Yeah, I like that game.
I love that game. But if you think about it as your marketing tower, your foundation, you don't pull, unless you're my brother, you don't pull the bottom of the Jenga board out first.
Typically, no. Correct.
Typically, no. You can, but it destabilizes the entire tower, right? And then it becomes a very short game of Jenga versus a very long game of Jenga.
Correct.
And so when you are working on your marketing and in the online space, I would encourage you to take as many opportunities as you can to hop into a networking group, to hop into a space where you get to be face-to-face on Zoom or in person with people and practice making and building relationships, and then take those tenets and use them in your online content. We have to practice what we preach.
Yeah, I agree. So let me ask you, I'm going to ask you for some nuggets here.
Yeah.
So, you said social media, I get it, but how do you build relationships? I mean, this is a one-to-many communication forum that we're talking about, right? So how do we capture that one person that we really want to attract? And how do we, do you have to do DMs with them to take it offline, or what's your suggestions on that?
Oh, that's a good question. And it's a loaded one. So it honestly depends on the person. I've sold in the DM. I've taken people off of social media into an email conversation. I've taken them to text messages. You have to meet people where they are. So if they're on Instagram, for example, and they reach out and message you and say they're interested in your services, or they comment on your post, you're limited in the number of ways you can respond to that. Right? You can't call them on at home because you don't have their phone number. And it would be kind of weird. It'd be like proposing marriage again. So you have to meet them where they are. So you have a choice, right? You can respond in the actual thread of the comment where they commented first. You can reply in the thread and message them, or you can just message them. Those are kind of your three options.
Right.
And so you need to take a look at, what I always do is I go take a look at their feed and see what they're doing. Are they responding to comments heavily on their posts? If so, that might be where they're most comfortable. If I see a lot of comments without a lot of like, oh, that's a great comment, oh, this is, the responses, then I assume they probably are taking those comments and conversations into their DMs.
Right.
And then I try to mirror what they're doing, because one of the core tenets of conversation is mirroring, right? Not mimicking, but mirroring. You want to repeat the question back and parrot what they're saying and use some of those words that they're using to build trust.
Right.
And you can do that in the online space if you're smart about it. So if you, before you reach out and DM someone cold, do a little bit of research, whether it's on LinkedIn or Instagram or in email, take a look at how they speak, go look at their feed, pay attention to the words they use, and then use those words to build trust.
Love it. Love it. Goosebumps. You just gave me goosebumps. Love it. Love it. There you go. So that's you said a mouthful there, and thanks for those nuggets. Those guys, you got to take up on that. That is the way to do it. And I love to hear, and this is why I always like to bring guests into the show, so you guys know that I'm not the only person talking about this. You see other people giving you the same advice that I've been giving you for these last 3 years that I've been doing this show. So hey, obviously, if there are more than one people talking about it, it's because we know what we're talking about.
And Frank, repeating the same information in different ways helps you retain it better.
Mm-hmm. Well said. So that's interesting, because the world is different. And as I said before we started talking about relationship, I built my business totally online. I never went networking. I did everything since 2007. I just went, I threw on a data capture page. That's what it was called back then. And
I remember those.
And I direct linked into Google AdWords and did all of that. Now, but back then, I used to do it because social media wasn't as prominent back then. I mean, it is everything now. The way I built relationships was via email, because I would go into my Aweber account, if you remember those guys.
Oh yeah.
And I would send them emails, and like you said, the 80-20 rule. Most of the emails were 80% just content, 20% selling, and that's how I did it back then. So leads me to my next question to you. I was curious, do people still read emails? Is email marketing dead? I was speaking. I had a gentleman online. I had a gentleman on a show who's, he's a prominent marketer as well, just like you. And, he loves email marketing still. What's your take on it? Do people still?
I don't think it's dead. I think it's a tool that you can use in your arsenal if you use it properly. Nobody wants. So do you remember the kid in high school that was like was the popular kid, but they weren't like the most popular kid, and all they did was talk about themselves?
Yeah,
that kid.
Mm-hmm.
We'll call him Joe. And Joe was great, but you could only handle being around him for a short period of time, because you were like, oh my God, I don't need to know what you had for breakfast today.
5 minutes.
Yeah. You have so you need to flip the script in your emails and across the board in your marketing and make it about them. And don't make it about them as a whole, make it about them as a singular person. Pick your favorite client you've ever had, ever, amen, and write to them, talk to them. Because that matters. The other thing I tell people is, when you are leveraging email, expect an attrition.
What do you mean?
So an attrition is no,
I know attrition.
Fall off, right?
Yeah, I know. So, but okay.
So your email should repel and attract at the same time.
Gotcha.
Right. So you've got, let's say you plant flowers for bees, as an example, and you also get wasps and yellow jackets. So then you're like, okay, I don't want the wasps or the yellow jackets. So you plant some plants the wasps and yellow jackets don't like, but the honeybees still like, which I can't for the life of me tell you what that would be, but I'm sure it exists. So in your email, you want to plant those plants for the honeybees. And then as the wasps and the yellow jackets come in further into your email, you start seeding those other plants that the wasps and the yellow jackets don't like, and they'll naturally leave. They'll naturally exit your list and go, I thought she might be for me, but not really. And that's great, because they're making space for more honeybees. They're making space for more people who want to hear what you have to say. And if you get people on your list and you don't have any turnover whatsoever, you're not doing it right. You're not taking enough of a stand to piss enough people off that they want to leave. Not saying you should make people angry.
I've never heard it explained that way. I've never heard someone say expect attrition. So
well, you should. I mean, it's
no, I love it. I'm just saying, I love it. I'm giving you,
I think too many people freak out about it. They go, "Oh my God, I lost a subscriber!" And they run, and the house is on fire. And it's like, wait. So here's what would have happened if that person had hired you. Mm-hmm. You would have had the attrition in the middle of the contract, and you would have lost money. Mm-hmm. Because you don't Jenga together. You are playing Trouble and they're playing Twister, and it's not the same game.
Yeah.
They may have the same colors. That doesn't mean they're in any way related. So you have to expect, and the same thing with social media. Don't get your stomach in knots when you get people who are like, "This is BS and I don't like this," and blah, blah, blah. Great. You just figured out who your audience is not. That's fantastic. And one of the best things you can do is say, thank you so much for sharing your opinion. I'm so glad you figured out your marketing. Or I'm so glad you figured out whatever it is you do.
Yeah.
And obviously this is not the right space for you. I appreciate you so much for sharing. Thank you. And leave it.
So you think you should respond to that? I usually just block them. What's your take?
It depends on how volatile it is. If they're cussing you out, block them. But if it's something where you could spin it in a way to diffuse the situation, or at least acknowledge the situation, I think you should take that opportunity, because you show strength. And it also is an authority builder when you can come back at someone who is like, no, this is wrong. And you're like, I appreciate your opinion, but it's not. And here's why. And, this probably isn't the space for you.
Yeah. It's funny. I guess it's just, a lot of people don't know this about me, Breanna, but, I have a pretty, I wouldn't say a bad temper, but, I can confront with the best of them.
You're talking to a girl who hits people on purpose.
What was that?
You're talking to a girl who hits people on purpose.
Okay. So I guess I just got to practice, But I just can't stay shut. I can't stay shut, and it's so I don't get bad mouth on the internet. I'll just block the person so I don't have to respond, because if I respond, it's not going to be pretty. So
yeah, and if you know that about yourself, and that's a very mature thing to realize and go, this is not my jam, I should not be then don't. You have to know your limits.
Yeah.
And everything in marketing is a suggestion, right? Everyone says you should be on TikTok. Should you? I don't know. Is it right for you and your business?
Yeah, it depends.
For you, maybe not. For me, I found clients there, so it makes sense for me to show up there.
Okay.
Should you be on Instagram? I don't know. Honestly, if it makes sense if your business is a visual business, then probably. If you're very artistic, or you have home decor, like it's a very visual platform. So if it makes sense, same thing with Facebook, same thing with LinkedIn. Although I will argue for LinkedIn that every single business owner, legitimate business owner, should be on LinkedIn and should have their profile updated and should be willing and ready to network, because the people that you meet on LinkedIn are a different breed in the best way. And so that's one platform. You don't have to necessarily post every single day or engage in all the different things that you can do on LinkedIn, but you definitely need to have a presence there. Even if it just means that you have a page that you check once a week, like be there. Same thing with Alignable. Do I think you need to be heavily invested in it? No. But should you have a presence on it? Yeah.
Yeah. LinkedIn is the only social platform that I play on. It's the only one. I don't, I post on Facebook and I post on Instagram, but I don't play there. I play on LinkedIn. I
play on LinkedIn too. I also play on Instagram and on TikTok when I'm feeling it. But for the most part, LinkedIn is where I find the majority of my clients, because I'm looking for people who are ready to make moves in their business, who understand marketing, who can write content, but are out of time and bandwidth.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is most of us.
Right. Well, it's people are like, I love it. My clients are always like, I'm actually a really good writer. And I'm like, you don't have to argue that. I know you are. I don't work with people who aren't good writers.
Mm.
Really? I don't. 90% of my clients are excellent writers. Like they will edit something or send me something. And I'm like, holy crap, why am I writing for you again? Because they just don't have the bandwidth or they hate it. It's something they're skilled at, but they either don't love it and it's drudgery, or they just, it always falls to the bottom of the to-do list because the other things pile up and are more important.
Gotcha. Makes sense. So, in terms of building relationships though, I mean, okay, so we talked about social media, we talked about emails, and you said email is not that. I happen to agree with you, but it's a different way of maintaining that relationship.
Yeah.
But I think there's a missing component here because I want to make sure that the audience understands that it's just not, okay, social media, and it's just not, okay, email, right?
No.
The component that we're missing here is the messaging, right? And, as an expert writer, what's messaging that we can do that's compelling, that, give me some nuggets on that. So these people could go home and do their homework and start saying, hey, how do I attract the right people? How do I, build that relationship more with my audience?
Oh my gosh. So with your messaging, you need to uncomplicate it. You need to simplify it, because even though you're wanting to work with CEOs or CFOs or higher level business owners, we don't have time to go grab a dictionary. So simplify what you're talking about. Define things for us. When you are leveraging your messaging, look at it and go, if my fourth grader, if it's your fourth grader or your neighbor's fourth grader, read this, would they understand what I'm saying? And if the answer is no, do it again.
Do it again. Yeah.
Do it again. Simplify it. The other thing you should absolutely have in place is your content pillars. If you don't know what you're talking about and it can't be defined and put into what I call content pillars or silos, where you're like, okay, marketing is one silo in my business. I talk about it a lot. I'm an expert in it. That's one thing I post about. Copywriting is another silo in my business that I talk about. They can be broad silos. They don't have to be like, I only talk about the third Thursday of every month when the sun is perfectly aligned. No. If astrology is your thing, then astrology is a silo, right? You want to appear to be an expert, right? Because you are an expert, but the master of everything is the master of none.
Correct.
So pick 3 to 4 things you're really, really freaking good at that you could talk about. Those posts that you see on social media, I know I'm going back to social media, but where they're like, what could you talk about unprompted for an hour? What could you talk about if I had to put you on stage tomorrow? And people are like, oh, I could give a speech on this. I could do this. Like my talk when I go speak is your funnel isn't broken, your relationship is. I could talk about this all day long. So that's a pillar for me. So those pillars should dictate what you post and what you send an email and what you introduce yourself as in a networking situation. Those silos are the bottom pieces of that Jenga puzzle. They're what's holding everything else up. Because if you don't have them, then you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall, and that just makes a big freaking mess that you don't want to clean up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, spaghetti at the wall is not good.
I hate people like, just throw spaghetti at the wall. I'm like, please don't do that. Marinara sauce is hard to get on a carpet.
Yeah, it is. Hey guys, I hope you guys are enjoying the content that our guest is bringing you today. Incidentally, speaking of the guests, if you would like to be a guest on this show, if there's something that you would like to promote when it comes to digital marketing or anything within your business that you would like to promote, give us a call at 888-416-7752 or simply send us an email at info@lbmsllc.com. Someone from my office will then send you the podcast intake form and we will schedule you on the show. So if that's something you would like to do, go ahead and do that and I'll put you on the show. For now, enjoy the rest of the show. So let me ask you this. This topic came up not too long ago with one of my clients. Well, he was a prospective client at that point. Then he became a client. Because, there's a thing about authenticity online. And one of the reasons why he hired us to do his social media posting was, he wasn't getting, not that he wasn't getting traction, but he wasn't, he didn't have the time to do it. And his admin was doing other things, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Right. So we took it off his hands kind of thing. But we noticed in his past, he would use adult language, and we told him not to. So what's the take on that? Now, the reason why he used it is because that's authentically him. And he says that when people come to me, they're going to hear it. So I don't want to have a disconnect, which is, it's an argument. Yeah. But what's your take on it?
I have the mouth of a sailor. My husband's a coastie. And so, anyone who's listening who served, thank you. But I embarrass him. He's like, could you not swear? Could you not say that out loud? Like, does that really need to come out of your mouth? And so I'm very much in the camp with your gentleman who's like, that's, if they talk to me, they're going to hear me drop an F-bomb, or I'm going to say the S word, or I'm going to come out of my mouth, even if I'm trying really hard not to. It's just naturally something that comes out when I'm really passionate about something. So I apply the 80-20 rule to adult language as well. So I try when I write so I also write social media posts. I don't do it as often as you. But when I'm writing them, I look at the holistic plan, right? So you've got your full 30-day plan, or your 2-week plan, or your 1-week plan. And I'm like, okay, are we using adult language 20% of the time or less? And when I'm using it, is it strategic? Am I dropping it in here because I can, or is it making an emphasis where it should? And if you're using it to emphasize things that really piss you off, or that really get you excited, and it's expanding the feeling, like you can, if it makes it so that some of the best content that I've ever written or read is the content where you can hear them talking in your head. Right? Like, have you ever read a book and you're like, and you feel like you're watching a movie?
Yeah.
That's what you want your content to do for people. And that is really, really stinking hard to do.
Yeah. But you're probably good at it though, right?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have honed my craft. I think that I can, some of the time I can get that. I've actually had people reply and be like, oh my gosh, it's like you're in my head. And I'm like, yes. But that adult language piece, I always tell people to write how you speak, because the last thing you want is for them to be like, oh, you hired a copywriter. You're not anything like what I saw. You don't want a bait and switch feeling to happen. So dropping a few F-bombs in the content isn't the worst thing in the world, but I would say follow that 80-20 rule and look and see if there's another way you can say that line or that word or that phrase without the adult language. Now, that being said, like I said, if you're someone like me who swears a lot, don't have a completely clean social media feed. Because when people meet you, they're going to be like, this is not what I signed up for.
Yeah. So that's authentic. Thanks for that. That's I love that. I mean, I curse like a sailor too, but it's funny. I'm a hybrid. Like if I'm talking to a client, I never use it. Never. If I'm in any business circle, in a networking event, Chamber of Commerce, whatever, BNI, or on my podcast, or I'm meeting people for the first time, never do it. Around my inner circle though, oh my God.
Yeah, and I try. So I haven't dropped anything yet on this podcast. I'm pretty freaking proud of myself, actually. But because normally I'd be like, it would just come out of my mouth unintentionally. And so I do make a concerted effort, because I have 2 small children. They're not so small anymore. They're 7 and 11, but they parrot, right? So I've been trying over the last 11 years to not swear so much, because they parrot what they hear me say. And so I definitely don't swear like I used to, But if I didn't, I sent out an email yesterday with the F word in it.
Okay.
Because every time I wrote the word funnel, it auto-corrected to FUCKL.
Really?
I have no idea what was going on. I was literally like typing. I'm like, what? And then I'm like chicken pecking, trying to figure it out. And I finally, in the email, I was like, in case anyone is wondering, it took me a long time to write this email because the word funnel kept autocorrecting to this. Why? I have no idea. So I made a play on words, and I actually said, maybe it's because my computer hears me swearing.
Could be.
Like, who knows? But it was when you have those moments, play with them, make yourself human.
Yeah.
That's one of the fastest ways to build relationships, is to show imperfections.
Yeah. I mean, if it's done, and I'm starting to agree with you now, because if it's you and you're gonna meet the person and you don't do it, then they're gonna think that you're inauthentic. So you might as well just continue it, And so, you know what? Thanks. I'm gonna change my attitude with this. Not attitude. I'm gonna speak to my team and say, hey guys, drop a few F-bombs there, because that's who he is.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Just read through it and say, okay, like, is every other word an F-bomb? We probably need to pull back. But if you've got 10 posts, and of those 10 posts, 2 of them have F-bombs in them, leave it.
Yeah. Because you don't want to use it as a comma, but you should drop it in the SM. So thanks for that advice.
Yeah, of course. And you can get creative with it too. You can play around, make up words that are, and if you want to swear in your copy, in your content, in your marketing, in your messaging, and you're uncomfortable writing out the actual word, use asterisks, use dollar signs, cartoon it. Well,
I make
fun too.
On my copy, I'll make up words. I'll say words like fugly.
I used the word fugly the other day.
Yeah. So, so I make up stuff. But anyway.
That's a good word. It's not. I'm pretty sure it's in the Urban Dictionary.
It should be. Yeah. All right. So now to our regularly scheduled program. So we're talking about building relationships, and hey, that is a form of building relationships, actually. If you're letting people know who's your authentic self. And I like that. I think that's important. And I'm not offended by it. I mean, I have tons of clients who use it all the time. They just never hear me say it. But if they were to see me around my inner circle, they'll be like, who is this guy? But I'm not that person on business. So anyway.
Yeah. And everyone, you have to know, when you're building your relationships in your business, you have to know what your boundaries are.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you end up treating clients as friends. You end up with and then you end up going out of scope on projects. So as you're building these relationships, bringing it back to what we were talking about, make sure that you have your guardrails in place. Make sure you have those fences up, those boundaries up. I'm not saying you shouldn't be yourself, because I am roller derby playing, knitting me all the time. Whether it's in my copy or you talk to me, I'm the same person either place. But I'm not going to sit down and talk to you about my frustrations with my kids or the struggles that I'm having with this knitting pattern that, is going south. You have to choose your battles, and you have to know what your limits are. And so, on the same vein as having silos for your content and your messaging to make sure that it's authentic and in the right place, know what your stop gaps are and your limitations, and know what you're willing to share with your audience, and know what you want to keep private.
Yep, exactly. Love it. So now it's time for me to put you on a spot again, Breanna. I want to put you on a spot because last time I put you on a spot, you bedazzled me, and I want to get bedazzled. I don't know, I'm feeling kind of funky this morning. I want to get bedazzled by the great Breanna Gunn. So here it is. I want three things that we all can do. Now we're talking about messaging and everything. What are the 3 things that we all can do to get our messages read / opened? Well, first opened and then read, actually, because that's
So the first thing you can do, and this is the thing everyone skips and everyone groans when I say it, but do your market research. Don't halfway or half, your market research.
You can say half-assed.
Don't half-ass your market research. Go talk to actual human beings. go tell people, hey, I'm doing some market research. It looks like you're a this, this, and this. I'd love to pick your brain for 10 minutes. Do you have time?
Yeah.
Go out and talk to real people. Record those conversations. Use Otter, use something, use a dictation app, use Zoom. I don't care, but please, for the love of all that is holy, record those conversations. Then you go to step 2. Use the words that the people you talk to used in your content, in your headlines, in your preview text. And for the love, use your preview text, because your preview text is actually the most read line in all of your emails. Just like on social media, when you have, on Instagram or Facebook, when your post is too long, they cut the post off at a certain number of characters. Know what your boundaries are. Fill that top portion, that preview line, that top portion on social media with your best content, and then back it up as you go through the email.
Right.
Make that claim up front, because people are going to go, ooh, I want to know what this is. And the third piece is consistency. Don't be the person who asks for someone for their email, sends them the thing they asked for, and then ghosts them for months and months and months, and then expects them to actually open something and read it. If you're going to show up in people's inboxes, do it with consistency. If you're going to show up in people's feeds, do it with consistency. I do not care if you do it once a month, once a week, once a day. But whatever pattern you choose, if it's 3 days a week and it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, every single week, great. But stick with it. Because we are in a brave new world right now. People are taking longer and longer to make purchasing decisions. People are far less trustful than they used to be. And so we need to build that trust by doing our market research, leveraging the words they use so that they know we hear them. Because this is not the you show. This is the them show. True. Right? This is not the Joe show. This is the them show. And then showing up with consistency across the board. Don't be the person that's like, I have to be everywhere. Because like I said earlier, the master of everything is the master of none. So pick 1 or 2 platforms, get really, really, really good on them. And then if you are confident that you can maintain that level of consistency, then add another platform. But don't try to be everywhere at once. Figure out where your people are. Do your market research, because they will tell you if you ask them. Then start showing up there. Show up there with consistency, and just build those relationships. Because guys, at the end of the day, friends buy from friends. So your goal is not to find more clients. Your goal is to find more friends. Yeah.
It's that whole know, like, and trust thing. Yeah. And yeah, I agree. And that's real, thanks for those nuggets. I think everyone should just take that advice, because I believe in that 100% as well. I like the market research twist. I like that. I've never heard that before. Actually, I do market research, but I've never gone out and asked those. I do market research. I'm always on forums and I see what people are talking about, and I do that. But I like your twist better. I think your twist is a little bit more personal.
But what if you could get someone on the phone and be like, "Hey, Frank, so you said this, and this is your problem. What if I could wave a magic wand and fix it for you? How would that feel?"
Yeah.
And then you tell me how it feels, and y'all use that phrase. It works really well. If the words that they tell you how it would feel after the pain is taken away, that's gold.
Yeah, you can use it as a headline on a sales page, or you can use it in so many different ways.
Action, all kinds of things. You could make it into reels. You could make it into a live. And the other, I'm going to do 4 tips, I guess. But the other thing is, don't be afraid to repeat content, because repetition breeds trust.
Yes.
So if you take the phrase they gave you and you put it as the headline on your email in the preview text, you can take that same email and you can turn it into a blog post. You can take that blog post and turn it into social media posts. You can take those social media posts, turn them into lives, turn them into reels, turn them into TikToks, turn them into all kinds of things. So don't think you have to always reinvent the wheel. Sometimes it's better to repeat the same information in different ways.
Love it. Makes sense. Makes total sense. Love it. Wow. That was I asked for 3 and you gave me 4. You're over delivering there, Breanna.
Didn't we all over deliver?
Hey, that's the important thing, right? That's what good business people do, right? We have to, especially on the digital marketing side. All right. So, this has all been great in terms of building relationships. Those are some great nuggets. Messaging is definitely a key portion of building relationships. You talked about the do's. You talked about, the best practices that you follow, and I'm sure you do for your clients and probably advise other people. But let's talk about some mistakes. Like, what are the most common mistakes that you can do that you've seen people doing when they're doing their marketing? Let's see what we can help people avoid, because sometimes that's a key thing too.
Don't be Joe. This is not the you show. Nobody cares what you ate for breakfast unless you can tie it to a pain point or a solution for your client. Like, as you are reading your written content or listening back to a live you did, because your messaging extends beyond what's written on the page. It's literally your presence, right?
Right.
As you're listening back, as you're reading back, ask yourself, number 1, did I provide a tip, trick, solution, or answer to a question that my ideal client has?
Right.
Number 2, did I help them solve their pain in some way? Did I give them something they could leverage and use? And 3, do I really need to include the story about my Aunt Harriet?
Yeah, because Aunt Harriet was important in my life. Why not?
Right. But if you can tie your Aunt Harriet to those 2 former points, right? You can answer, Aunt Harriet had the best pie. And in order to make the best pie, she had a secret ingredient. And the secret ingredient in your marketing is this, that, keep it done. That's a great story. If you're talking about how your Aunt Harriet had hat pins and hat pins were this and and then you try to make the hat pin the point, it doesn't really work.
Right.
So make sure when you're leveraging story and you're using analogy and you're trying to tie in some of your personal pieces into your marketing, because you should, people want to get to know you.
Mm-hmm.
Use it in a way that actually makes sense. Yes. Don't go out and tell a story for the sake of telling a story. The other thing is, everyone does this, and I've heard so many people say you shouldn't do this, and I agree. When you're going through and reading your content, and this is specific to written content, everywhere you see an I, change it to you, we, or our. Make it an inclusive conversation.
Love it.
No one wants to be talked at. Think you're going to make your audience feel like they're 8-year-old you and you're in trouble because you clogged the toilet.
Love it.
Right? You don't want to be the parent yelling at the child. And that's what ends up happening when you're like, I did this. Like, nobody cares. Genuinely. Nobody cares. And that's when you're going to see bounces and unsubscribes and things beyond the normal attrition that you should be seeing with your email list.
Mm-hmm. What's a good normal attrition?
Normal attrition is what I'm seeing is typically anything below 0.5%.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
That low?
Yeah. You should, like, on average, my list, I'm seeing 1 to 2 unsubscribes per email out of a list of about.
But you're the guru of all gurus when it comes to relationships.
Off as the guru of the gurus.
Right. So let's say someone who's not a Breanna. What is something that's reasonable that you could work with?
Even my clients that are like, so the thing is you're an expertise in your own lane, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're an expert in your own lane, not an expertise. You're an expert in your own lane.
Mm-hmm.
You should be attracting people who want your expertise.
Correct.
But oftentimes we end up with business by accident. We're like, I'm going to help this one client that I absolutely love do the thing. And then that client tells someone else about you, or someone else finds you, or you find another client. Now you have 2 clients and now you're serving them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you may decide, oh my gosh, the stuff I'm doing for client 1, I hate.
Mm-hmm.
It's killing me. I love the stuff I'm doing for client 2.
Yeah.
I don't want any more clients like Client One. I'll keep doing that work because I love her.
Yeah.
Until I can find someone to replace me, because I've realized that this is not the thing. And that's why we do my business by accident. We start our business thinking we're going to do one thing and we end up doing something completely different. I thought I was going to be a blogger. I started a health and wellness blog back in 2007 and made a lot of money doing it, ran Elite Blog Academy, did a whole bunch of things with blogging, only to find out that I absolutely hate it and it makes me want to stab my eyeballs out with forks. So I don't want to work with bloggers. I don't want to write blogs. I write blogs? Yes, but I write them in a way that feels good for me. I take the email that kicks butt and I turn that into a blog post.
Oh man, I was just about to ask you if you want to write my blog for me. I'm just joking. Couldn't resist.
Someone who's fantastic, I will happily hook you up. So it's one of those things where if you know you hate doing it, don't do it. If your business vehicle is driving in the direction of being a blogger or a blog post writer, and you realize you actually want to write marketing, not that blogs aren't marketing, but you want to write sales pages, you want to write sales emails, you want to write media pitches, you want to do something completely different in a different lane. Now you've established yourself as this blogging person, and you have people on your list because you've been promoting yourself as this blogging person who aren't right for the next iteration of your business. That's why I say expect natural attrition, because as we grow and change and shift, especially as new business owners, you're going to have people on your list I have people who've been on my list for 7 years. I am not the same person I was 7 years ago. And my business is not the same as it was 7 years ago. I offer far less options and far less features and far less packages than I did. Right? 7 years ago, you talk to me, I'd be like, yeah, I can do all of that.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I don't do blogs. I don't do this. Like if it's in a package and we talk about it and I'm doing the rest of your marketing, then yes, it makes sense for me to do the blogs and I will take that on. And I have someone who writes blogs for me, so I don't have to. Right? So I've set myself up for success in that respect.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at natural attrition, you have to remember that the people that joined you when you were first starting out are probably not the right people for your business right now. So anything less than 1% attrition is not going to get you in trouble with your CRM. Speaking. And if you're seeing more than 1% of people opting out, it's probably time to send out an email and say, hey guys, I noticed that a lot of you aren't connecting with my message anymore. Here is what I stand for and what I'm about. If you want to be here for those conversations, you don't have to do anything. If this is not your jam anymore, click here.
Wonderful. Authentic. That's funny. It's like I'm speaking to the mirror image of me, because this
is why I like you, because I'm like, he thinks like I think. It's great.
I narrowed down my business so narrow now, as I don't even do like that client I was telling you about that we do the posting. The only reason why we do it is because he was he was a long time client.
Because you really like him.
Yeah, and he was also a long time client. He just wanted us to do this in addition.
Right, but it's not the only thing you're doing for him.
Oh, no. I didn't, but I stopped doing social media. I stopped promoting. I don't do it because I don't get jazzed. I'm just not.
Yeah, I don't do social media. I don't do blog posts. I kick butt at sales emails, funnels, all kinds of things. But I know where I shine.
That's the beauty. And, just like me, I just went purely lead gen. If it's not a lead gen thing, if it's not an ad for LinkedIn, an ad on Facebook, an ad on Google, or ad on YouTube, I don't want to touch it. That's how we're going to initialize. That's how we're going to initial our relationship. Going back to that word, we want to build a business relationship. Do you need any leads? Do you want me to generate leads for you? Let's start it. Now, if you want me to do something else for you after that, like create a website or a mobile app, we'll do other stuff. But our initial engagement needs to be out of lead generation. Other than that, I really don't, you're not going to find me. So, I was scared to do that, but I find that after I did it, business took off. So here I am.
And that's the thing is when you niche yourself down enough to know what your golden goose is, what kind of golden eggs you lay, then you don't end up going down the chute like Veruca did, right? You end up like Charlie. You find all the wonderful things at the end of that trip where you got the right kind of clients and you're doing the work you really love, and you're able to talk about your content pillars in a way that's awesome and passionate and exciting because you're excited about what you're working on. And if you come to a point where you niche even further, you're going to have that attrition again, because like you said, you went from doing general lead gen to doing like advertising lead gen, which I need to talk to you about, by the way, don't let me forget. But knowing what you're really, really good at only comes from experience. So if you're new to this game, if you're in this for less than 5 years, you may not know, Frank and I have been in this for a long time. We're kind of like grandparents of digital marketing, which I'm cool with. My grandparents were kick-ass people and they were super fun. We got to do all kinds of crazy things with them. But
is that where you get your sense of humor? I mean, this is a very energetic. This is a very energetic woman, guys. She's awesome to talk to. I could talk to her all day long. Maybe that's where she gets it from.
But yeah, don't expect it's that whole thing of you and I are further down the path. The journey of someone who's just starting or has been in this for 5 years, you're not going to be in the same place as Frank and I, and that's okay. That's expected. And the thing is, your journey doesn't look like anybody else's. So stop trying to make it be someone else's.
Ooh,
own yourself. Own yourself. Be proud of who you are and in the way you think differently. If you disagree with Marie Forleo or Gary Vee or any of those big names, be proud of that.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to go call them on the carpet, because punching up is probably not the best idea.
Nope.
But you can absolutely say, this is why I stand on this tenet and what makes me different, and be proud of it and own it. Stop trying to be someone you're not.
Everybody's journey is different. Everyone's journey is different. So Breanna, I am going to, if with your permission, obviously, I'm going to give people your LinkedIn. I'm going to put them on the show notes and everything. So if anyone wants to get a hold of you, they'll be there. But I understand you have a gift for my listeners. You have a magazine of something. Share what that's all about.
I put together a magazine called Copyright. It has tips and tricks for business owners at every stage. It's got, I wish I could give you all a physical copy, but it's the digital copy. You'll find things on lead gen, on actually writing in a voice that makes sense to your audience, collaboration over competition. There's some really, really great information in there. You can go to breannagunn.com/magazine and get your free copy. And the second issue will be out later this month.
Awesome. Well, there you go, guys. Go and grab that right now. I know you guys are driving. Most of my listeners, by the way, Breanna, I did a survey, and
they're in the morning commute.
Most of my listeners are driving into work. That's
so cool.
It was like, I think it was like 68%.
So don't go download it right now. Wait till
don't download it right now. Yeah.
Please
get to work, get to your destination, then download it. Great. So this has been really, really, really awesome. Breanna, thanks for coming. Is there anything I did not ask you that you think will benefit the audience before I let you
go? Those of you, the only thing I would add is don't try to implement all of this at once. Pick one or two nuggets. Don't make the mistake of trying to do everything, because you're going to burn out and you're going to get frustrated. Pick one or two nuggets that you were like, ooh, that really resonated with me, and start doing that. And then as you get really, really good at that and it becomes rote and it becomes natural, then add more layers.
That's awesome. Now, if there's any, I always ask you this, guys, if there's any episode that you do not want to not download, is this one. You want to download this one, because she did give a lot of nuggets, and I know you guys are driving. You don't want to miss it out. So when you get to your destination, you get home later today, listen to it after you download it. Write it down because it's going to help you a lot. So with that, I am going to put an end to this episode. This has been Frank Deming, the local business guy, and you've just been blessed by the great Breanna Gunn. Take care, everyone. Until next week. Peace out.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Marketing Solutions for Local Businesses, the podcast where you will discover all the latest and greatest digital marketing tools, tips, and strategies you will need to implement in order to stay ahead of your competition. Don't forget, any links that were mentioned during the broadcast will be available to you in the show notes, so be sure to grab them while you have the chance. Incidentally, if you have any topics that you would like for us to discuss on the show, be sure to send an email to the email provided in the show notes, or click the Contact Us link and let us know what topic you would like us to help you with, and we'll be sure to add it to our schedule. If you would like for Frank and his team to look at your digital marketing presence and give you a free evaluation, simply click the Request a Free Consultation link in the show notes to get a hold of them. That being said, until our next episode, make it a successful digital marketing day. Peace out.